Hi dear colleagues, in this video we'll talk about the different types of interpretation of Bulgarian folk music. Bulgarian folk music is a separate genre. As many other music styles, it offers the possibility for different types of interpretation of the same melodies or songs. It's all up to you what kind of interpretation you'll choose according to your personal necessities. Let's talk about a few certain aspects. First of all, let's talk about the individual performing. When we talk about music, usually the educating process starts with an individual performing. If you want to learn how to play a certain instrument or how to sing, before you step forward to collective work, you should begin with personal training. That is quite usual for Bulgarian folk music as well. We should notice that this is an old and even ancient manner of making music, so individual performing is the most natural way. In that case, Bulgarian folk music has the feature to sound good even in a solo performing, without to give a feeling that something is missing, accompaniment or harmony or some other additives. You can just play a melody on a certain instrument or sing a song, and that will be enough to present all the specifics of this traditional art, as well as your own personal level of technical skills and inner sense about the local style. To enjoy a solo performing of Bulgarian folk music, you don't need a huge hall with a good acoustic, or professional sound system, or large and hard portable instruments. That makes it easy to practice and perform it at many different places and improvised scenes. It makes it quite accessible for a different kind of audience. The second aspect is collective performing. That kind of interpretation fundamentally is not so typical for Bulgarian folk music. I should specify that for a collective performing, we may take for example the antiphon singing of Bulgarian folk songs by two groups of female singers. But this is an old tradition that we couldn't find in nowadays except in cases when authentic folklore is performed on stage, just to show the audience how it has been played a century ago. Bulgarian folk music is mostly one-voice music. Two voices we can find just in a few certain regions of the country, and I should notice that this is a really special way of singing and playing. It has its own rules and characteristics. I'll prepare a single article with additional information about that. But here I want to point out that this is not the typical shape of Bulgarian folk music, and we should clearly separate our thinking about the old authentic folk tradition and the new one, which is accepting some other effects also that has been approved since the middle of the last century. The collective performing in Bulgarian folk music is quite new occurrence, and here I will mention just the basic options without to give details about when and how these practices has been started and approved. Generally, the collective performing is happening in a few ways. First, a solo performing with an accompaniment. It may be two types. Vocal music, as the accompaniment may be performed by one or more instruments. Here we have some examples. The first one, В петък се Радка потурчи, performed by Комня Стоянова and Ivan Bogoev, who plays kaval. And the second example is the song Над не да хвърчат, performed by Petya Paneva and folk group. You can also find links to these examples below that video. And the second type is instrumental music with an accompaniment of one or more instruments. Also, you can check the links below and hear the examples. Second, we have group performing. And again, we can talk about vocal and instrumental music. In vocal music, we have duets, trios, quartets, folk choirs. In instrumental music, we have also duets, trios, chamber groups, and folk orchestras. All these groups are presenting an aforetime prepared and developed music material, which may have some solo or improvisation sections for certain instrument, but we cannot say that this is a solo playing with an accompaniment because in that case, this is not actually the basic approach. And third, we have ensemble performing. This is a new type of interpretation of Bulgarian folk music, approved with the creating of a few national folk ensembles in the middle of the last century and the next few decades. These ensembles on the order of classic music has a purpose to present a syncretic art on scene but build up with the elements of Bulgarian folklore. So they are incorporating vocal, instrumental and dance art. You can check out the example issued from Shopski region Ensemble Filip Kutev. The third aspect is authentic folklore. Decades ago, Bulgarian folk music got out of the traditional manner and now it has a different purpose, as a performing on concerts or celebrations. Nowadays, groups for authentic folklore are still existing, presenting this traditional art in its older forms on stage. Usually we can hear one voice singing by groups of female singers, rarely male groups. In a few certain regions of the country, people are singing on two voices. And this is a really interesting manner that has its own rules and specific sound. The songs are usually performed a cappella, but sometimes we can hear them with an instrumental accompaniment. If we talk about instrumental music, the ensemble performing is not so typical. Because as I mentioned before, our folklore is mostly homophonic. In the authentic folk music, you may find one main solo instrument with a drum that's keeping the rhythmic bass. That instrument may have a solo performing, usually of an unmeasured melody, or to play for dancing. In our folklore tradition, we have different instruments, and the most popular and often used are gaida, it's a bagpipe, kafal, often translated as flute, gadulka, it means rebec, and tambora, often translated as mandolin. I am giving you the Bulgarian titles and also the translations because it may sound clear to you, but it's important to notice that these Bulgarian instruments has different shape and sound. If you're interested, you may check for some more information in the net, and also we may post some articles about them here on BFM&M. A few ensembles that perform authentic folklore on stage are existing in Bulgaria. Their production usually combines playing, singing and dancing, showing some ancient rituals, and most of all, it has a ceremonial character. These groups are very impressive because nowadays it's really hard to find this way of performing the folk tradition. In some of the next articles, I will tell you more about the best ensemble for authentic folk art in Bulgaria. The fourth aspect is wedding folk music. This is a particular style that has been affirmed in the second half of the last century and may be performed by traditional Bulgarian folk instruments, most common are kaval and gaida, and also with classic instruments like clarinet most of all, saxophone, trumpet, accordion and violin. This is a group type playing. Except the leading solo instruments, the band has also rhythm section, drum and bass, I mean drum kit and electric bass guitar. The harmonic bass is kept by solo electric guitar or synthesizer. These groups are playing in wide spaces, often outdoor, in front of a large audience, so a sound equipment is required, especially when we're talking about electric instruments. The most popular performer that affirms this style is the clarinet player Ivo Popazov. He is a band leader of Trachea Orchestra. You can check out the links below this video, Ivo Popazov и Ликово Хоро, which is mostly in the old tradition, and Ivo Popazov and his wedding band in Toulouse. I'll prepare a particular article with more specific information about him and his music. For now, all you have to know is that wedding folk music still stays the most popular style of performing traditional Bulgarian music. Of course, it takes some changes and other influences in time, but this style is basically kept stable. The last aspect I want to talk about is contemporary music with ethno elements. As a lot of new styles are affirmed in the world music industry, combining not only separate main genres but an elements of different ethnocultures too, Bulgarian folk music also takes its place on the world music scene. You can hear it in many various music projects, and it's quite logic in most of them to find some Bulgarian participation. Let's see some examples. Classic music, an arrangement of folk songs and melodies for classic instruments. For example, you can hear Dil Mano Dilbero. This is a composition for piano built upon variations of a popular Bulgarian song by the composer Alexander Vladigerov. Something else that's connected with classic music are the choir compositions. You can check choir Bodra Smyana and the song Dimyaninka. Also, we have compositions for orchestras. You can check Teodosi Spasov Concert for Kaval, Clarinet and Symphonic Orchestra. So, this is all about classic music. But on the other hand, we have modern styles like jazz, hip-hop, pop, funk, electric music and others. I wouldn't mention all these artists now, but you can check the examples below this video. In case this information seems useful to you, you can press the like button or share this video in the social networks to help us promote our job. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video when we'll talk about Bulgarian folk music and the instrumental practice.